If finding the right micro-influencer can create big impact for your small business marketing, how do you find the right micro-influencer? So quick definitions, what exactly is a micro-influencer? Well, a micro-influencer is someone who has maybe not a massive audience, so we're not talking not even sometimes tens of thousands or millions of followers. Sometimes you're just talking about a few thousand followers, but they are highly engaged, and that can make them a lot more valuable sometimes than leaning on a massive influencer brand, which if you want to like a little more traditional analogy, like a massive influencer brand is kind of like more like a billboard. You're going to throw it out in front of a bunch of people and expect that, you know, a decent number of them are pretty solid, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Whereas a micro-influencer is a little bit more like finding like a book club that you know are all your ideal buyers and then taking them something to try. And then of course, like 80% of them falling in love with it. You're going to spend less money getting in front of them and to have a higher conversion ratio. So how do you actually find the right micro-influencers? Because let's be honest, there's a lot out there that can make this really more challenging than it probably should be. So first thing I'm going to give you is a little bit of tough love here. And that is, stop trying to shortcut this one. Just actually get plugged in with your ideal audience, with your customers, and start being your customer, at least to some extent. If you are not your ideal customer, then do yourself a favor and get around some people who are, and ask them, who are they actually following? Who are they engaging with? Like, a lot of times people go and they try and find this person by like just running searches on Instagram or YouTube or wherever, and there can be some value to that. However, you really want to be figuring out who your exact audience is actually engaging with. For example, and I don't know that this necessarily counts as like a micro-influencer example, but it is something that I have noticed as someone who is part of the ADHD community. There is a musical out there called Epic. And this Epic, the musical concept, like came onto the stage a few years ago and has really, really swept the globe. But I've noticed there is a hugely neurodivergent audience that follows this producer, this composer, Jorge. Now, where I have been able to use that is by following back to the people who do engage with his content regularly, the micro-influencers who get quite a bit of reach on their material about his content, and then leveraging, interacting with them as a micro-influencer who has a smaller audience is more accessible, but also I know is appealing to my audience. Why? Because I'm part of my audience and I'm following them, which to be fair is not like a fail-safe, but it's a pretty good heads up. So once you have done some research and gotten a list of micro-influencers that might be a fit for collaborating with your brand, now it's time to check and make sure you've got the right micro-influencers. First and foremost, check engagement. And this does include like actually going through the past few like while on their posts and looking to see, are people commenting? Are people liking? Are they engaging with the material? If you're just getting a whole bunch of like bot style comments, i.e. a bunch of stuff with emojis or a bunch of stuff that is clearly created by an AI or by bots, or if you are getting a whole bunch of likes but no comments, it might be worth questioning, like, are they actually getting engagement, or are they paying for engagement? Maybe they've paid to get themselves to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 followers, and then they're just paying for engagement from bots or from those followers to make it look like they have. In other words, are they doing the fake it till you make it thing? So you got your list, you check to make sure that they're not bots and they're getting actual engagement. What's next? Well, my next recommendation is to do a little bit of private eye work. And that is like, actually take some time. Now that you've narrowed this down to, maybe you started with 10 potential influencers, you narrowed it down to 6 or 5 or 4. Now is the time to like start prioritizing them by doing a little bit of background. First and check, like, are they consistent with their posting? Are they consistent with putting material out? Have they done collaborations before? They are supposed to tag that information. If they are paid to do a collaboration, they are supposed to tag that it was a paid collaboration. So have they done these in the past? You might even like try and actually research them online, apart from whatever their influencer profile is, and see what information you can find just to make sure that whoever they are aligns with who you want your brand to be aligned with. I know that as I laid this out, like that's actually quite a few steps, and that's quite a bit of time investment. And I'm gonna just go back to reiterating something I have talked about quite frequently for small business owners and their marketing, and that is that marketing demands investment, whether that is time, energy, or money. And usually it demands at least 2 of the 3, i.e. either you can put some time in to find a good micro-influencer who's actually gonna make an impact for you without having to spend $5,000 for a single post from a macro influencer. You can put some energy into finding the right influencers that you enjoy engaging with, or you could just throw money at it and see what happens. If you're working on a budget, my typical preference is to go the first route. Like, take some time, take some energy, really make sure you're making the right call here, because here's the thing that I always come back to whenever I get a small business owner who is letting me know that, like, my idea sounds great, but oh my God, Steph, I just don't have the capacity to do this. No one else is going to market your business like you. And you probably produce a pretty solid product. So don't you think your business is worth it?